Welcome back to the TwinSpires Jury. I'm Ashley Anderson here with Darin, Zoccali, and we have handicapper, man of many trades, Nick Tammaro joining us, filling in for James Scully today. Good to have you back, Nick.
Only attempting to fill in for James Scully is all I could try to do, but great to be back with you.
Well, we're going to be talking a lot of Churchill Downs today, some Aqueduct. We have the 27th Claiming Crown Championship Series on Saturday at Churchill and the Grade 3 Chilukki, so we'll cover the Grade 3 and a Claiming Crown race, and then the Jockey Club Oaks at Aqueduct. Nick, I'll start things off with you with that one-turn mile Grade 3 Chilukki at Churchill on Saturday. It's race 3. Tell me who you see winning this race.
Yeah, really a Grade 3 in name only, Ashley. This is an outstanding field that came together. Ragtime was just a half length or so shy of being a Grade 1 winner and has been remarkably consistent so far, but I'll let you talk about her. I like One Magic Filly, who moved into the barn of Brendan Walsh last time out and was running against the razor sharp Hillarito, who came back and won the Dream Supreme, ran her down pretty confidently under Flavien Prat, and I thought ran a race that day that really indicates that up to a mile could probably be okay. This is a horse that always looked good out west for Phil D'Amato. I have a lot of respect for the job that Brendan Walsh does and might just have been getting this filly at exactly the right time. I guess in retrospect, that second place finish 2 starts back looks a little bit better now that we're all familiarized with Splendora, who beat her that day by 5+ lengths. And that was at a mile around 2 turns. I think a mile around 1 turn is probably going to suit her a little bit better. Pace-wise, I think she can be close enough to keep a horse like Shred the Gnar from getting too far away early. So I felt like from a value perspective, One Magic Filly was probably where I wanted to go. She'll be no worse than the third choice, so I'll take that willingly.
Darin, let's talk about Shred the Gnar, who's going to probably get the early lead. So why do you like that horse to win this race?
Yes, Shred the Gnar, I think, is a highly talented filly. She's going to be very forwardly placed in a field that I just don't see a ton of early speed in, and Nick referenced that. Whether or not she actually makes the lead, because she's never really had to run that quick early. I think she's just running a couple of races where she was light years better and went to the front in what were rather, pedestrian fractions, 47, 47, and 4. And in all likelihood, if One Magic Filly wants the lead, she might be even quicker than Shred the Gnar early. But I think either way, whether she sits second to One Magic Filly or makes the front, I think it's going to play to her advantage. She was a filly that was being pointed to the acorn earlier on in the season, where she was scratched out of that race, where the vets actually scratched her. And then she was, they said that she was showing signs of lameness prior to that scratch, and was subsequently off for an extended period of time. You see the gap in about 3 months from May 31st to August 31st for the workouts. So she missed a lot of marquee events that I think she was probably being pointed towards. She comes back here. Her effort at that Churchill Downs allowance, really opened up your eyes to seeing that this is a filly that obviously the upside is tremendous, where she just went to the front here, and you're getting a look at that replay as she's just going to pull away impressively from the field in this particular spot. And granted, she's going to face the toughest field that she's faced to date, but I think she's always been well meant. She's been destined for bigger things, and I hope that she can get the second half of this season and heading into her 4-year-old season off on the right foot here. So I think she's just going to come back and run a huge race here for Brian Lynch.
So for me, now I'm going to talk about Ragtime, who is 8-5, but I'm also going to give you a price if you don't want to back the heavy favorite. It's just that I didn't want to say that Ragtime shouldn't win this race, because this filly has really done, well, very little wrong. Coming off a narrow miss in the Grade 2 Raven Run, has only raced at 7 furlongs for her career, though, and she is adding an extra furlong here, but staying to 1 turn, so not having to add 2 turns here in this race. But she is breaking from the outside post. She's never broken from beyond post 5 before. I don't think that's really going to mess her up, but I'm just adding some variables to maybe cloud this heavy favorite. It's just that she really does look on paper like she is going to be the best filly in the field. When you look at the late pace ratings here, you're going to have probably a decent enough pace early on for her to close into, and she's had a 108 late pace rating in this last race in the Raven Run when she was a half length third, and she had a 101 two starts back when winning the Grade 3 Dogwood at Churchill. But if you want a price, I did think Impel was intriguing, breaking from the rail. This horse has a win at a mile at Churchill, 3 back, and that was in an allowance optional claimer. But she's been close before in graded stakes, and I think this is maybe a graded stakes race that she can finally get to the winner's circle. She's got one of her regular riders aboard, Florent Giroux. I think Flavian's going to be at Aqueduct that day. But she does well at Churchill, and she's 2 for 2 at the distance. So if you want a price, I thought Impel at 9 to 2. I just didn't want to discredit Ragtime because that filly, I've liked this filly for a long time, and it's hard to play against her. But, with the pace scenario, maybe she will come from too far back, and Impel should be a little bit closer. And I'm not sure from the rail if she'll go right out to the lead, but she does tend to sit right off the early speed.
I thought one of the interesting things here was Bill Mott putting the blinkers back on Ragtime.
Yeah.
And, she was appreciably slower in her last 2 starts early. And I think if you use any pace figure, you'll see that she was 10 plus points slower. Last time she was even slower than that. And going to the mile, I think this filly's going to be way more forwardly placed than we've seen in her last couple starts. I wouldn't even really be terribly surprised if Junior has her sitting second right off Shred the Gnar, because I would imagine they're not only going to look to try and keep her in the game a little bit more, but it is a sprint to route move. I know it's only 7/8 to a mile. I just think there's virtually no chance she's 6+ lengths out early as she's been in her last couple of starts. The only way that happens to me is if Shred the Gnar just absolutely runs off early, and she's been so handy in each of her last couple starts. I don't really see that being a possibility.
That's a good point with the blinkers.
I was gonna raise the same point. Nick beat me to it. You don't really see Mott make a change and then go back on it and go back to the previous change, which I find fascinating. I've also always been interested about the fact with her, based on her pedigree, that she has been just kind of relegated to these one-turn events. She debuted at 7 furlongs. She's a Union Rags filly. She got Stormcat on the bottom side of the pedigree, and there seems to be stamina top and bottom everywhere you look. And I think it's fascinating that they've just kind of kept her going this one turn. They are stretching her out a little bit here to a mile, and I guess they're a little bit curious to see what that does. And I'm curious to see, next year, is she going to be in the sprint division? Are they going to try to stretch around 2 turns? And maybe how she performs here and how she accelerates in the final furlong will be maybe a little bit of a preview of what's to come. And I think that's kind of an interesting added element to her story as a racehorse.
And I'm glad you brought up the blinkers, and that was a note I meant to mention because her first 2 starts, she had the blinkers on. She was more forwardly placed. And actually her third start, she had it as well and was a little bit more far back in the grade 1 test. But I think the blinkers and Junior, we saw do the same thing with Sovereignty. He was sitting more forwardly placed when it called for it, and they were successful. So I'm sure he can do it all over again with Ragtime. And maybe we'll see her in the Filly Mare Sprint next year, or maybe she's going to take the Scylla path and eventually go to the distaff and surprise us all and win that. We'll see. Well, let's move over to the Claiming Crown races. We have 8 starter allowances on Saturday's card at Churchill, and race 10 is the Claiming Crown Jewel, which is a co-featured race on the card. It's going to be a mile and an eighth for 3-year-olds and up on the main track, 5:25 p.m. Eastern time. Darin, who do you see winning this race?
Yeah, I'll also reference, and we'll talk about in a little bit, the tournament that we have on Saturday, which is a big NHC qualifier. It's always fun when you have tournaments on big days, Derby Day and Breeders' Cup, and a lot of those races are tough. This might be the wildest day of racing that tournament players are going to be confronted with in a while, because these races are impossible. And I expect a lot of tournament players to try to build their bankroll early on. I think that the Chilukki Stakes is going to be a race that a lot of people probably lean on because there's some consistent form to look at where you can really maybe put together a strong opinion. Whereas these races, including this Claiming Crown Jewel, is just so impossibly hard. I landed on Cadet Corps. I thought the race was certainly filled up with a good bit of early speed, both inside and outside. I like the fact that Cadet Corps has traveled pretty much all over the Mid-Atlantic and takes his race with him from racetrack to racetrack wherever he goes, whether it's Pimlico, Delaware, Laurel, Colonial, Monmouth. He always shows up with a good race. His only poor performance, if you want to call it that, was in the Grade 3 Monmouth Cup, where he was beaten 7.5 lengths by a next out winner in Surface to Air and Just a Touch, who was 1-9 in that field that day. And he came back out of that to win at a $35,000 starter event, beating a next out winner that he encounters again in this spot. He's had a great year. He's hit the board in 7 of 8 starts. The only time he did not hit the board was when he tried to go 11 furlongs on the turf. And you're getting a look at the win here on August the 21st at Colonial in that aforementioned starter allowance, where he stalked, rated, pounced, and pulled away decisively here to a 2-length victory. He's going to pick up the services of Junior Alvarado. I'd certainly respect Kelly Breen when he shows up in a spot like this with a horse like this as well. So, look, do I have a strong opinion about it? No, because I think out of the 12 that are going to go to the gate or whatever it's going to be, you can make a case for 8 or 9 of them. I just think this horse at a 6-1 morning line offers what I think is square value in a field that is very, very complex.
Yeah, sorry I picked such a wide open race. It was a
No,
tough
good.
one.
Good race
Once I
talk.
was looking at it today, I was like, wait a second, why did I pick this one? Nick, how do you see this race playing out?
Yeah, as Darin said, these races are very, very difficult. It's fun to see these horses get their moment in the sun. You know, a lot of the warriors that that comprise the day-to-day racing around the country and make us enjoy it so much. But I hate picking the favorite in here, but I went to the 12 Navajo Warrior for Saffie Joseph Jr. and Irad Ortiz, who coming off a victory at Churchill. This just felt to me like a race with a lot of pace. This is a horse that can sit back and make one run. Irad is so good in general, but he's really at his best with pace developing situations, having horses that are coming from off of it, timing that move. We're seeing the replay of his last victory from back in September, which was run at night. And this horse is, I think it was a Twilight Thursday. This horse just sort of gobbles everybody up late and goes on to win it, looking like a type that can certainly handle this level. This was an open one other than. I think that compares quite favorably to effectively a $20,000 starter allowance. And he's been good since he got into Saffie's barn. He was good for prior trainer Tim Yakteen. So I'm just kind of trying to find the hot hand, both in terms of horse and jockey. And this felt like it. It does make me feel a little bit better about taking the favorite when the favorite's going to be around 7-2. And, you know, that might even be generous. These races throughout this card look like they're going to offer up a ton of favorites in the 3-1 plus range, which obviously makes it a lot of fun for multi-race bets and some of those intra-race bets that the tournament players will be firing in on TwinSpires.com.
I think y'all both landed on very solid horses in this field. I decided to get kind of creative with it, going for a big price and gonna need a best effort here, but I went with alternate reality at 15-1. Looking at the horses that want to go to the front, we could get a decent pace for a late closer here. And this is a horse that hasn't won yet at a mile and an eighth. Finished a very, very close third though in an off the track or an off the turf event at Saratoga back in June. Or yeah, it was June. Now, this horse is making his third start for Joe Sharp, but this is kind of what the Claiming Crown's all about. This horse has moved barns several times, I think this is the 4th trainer he's going to be starting for now. And it looked like in his first 2 starts for Joe Sharp, he was closing well, which is why I like that he's going to be stretching out. Now, the 7 furlong distance, he didn't close too well that last out at the allowance. But when he was racing at a mile at Churchill, he was beaten just ahead that day, a 103 late pace rating. So looking at a potentially hot pace here for a late closer, also adding blinkers for the first time, Brian Hernandez Jr. aboard, I thought, why not take a shot at 15-1 with alternate reality? His stablemate is going to be breaking from post 1 and also goes to the front. So when I was looking at who I thought would go to the early lead, you've got the 1, I think the 10 burning hot, and then that horse, the 13, also looks like wants to be forwardly placed. So maybe a hot enough pace for this deep closer to come through.
Yeah, there's a ton of speed in here. I mean, I think both Darin and I alluded to it, picking off the pace horses. So no, I don't think there's anything crazy about this one. But if you do, what better name than alternate reality to talk about a horse
Right.
might be a little outside the box.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough of the Claiming Crown, since that is such a puzzle. We're going to talk about some promos at Churchill Downs this weekend. Darin, what's going on with promos and tournaments?
Yeah, great stuff this weekend. Saturday for the Claiming Crown, a nice supporting offer, the $3,000 win ladder. This is a really cool promotion that we've kicked off this year, and it's just accelerated in terms of how the players have responded to it and seem to appreciate it. Essentially, what happens is you have to opt in and place $5 win wagers on the entire racing card. And well, you don't have to bet every single race, of course, but the more races you bet, the more likely you're going to have a winner. And if you win in 3 races, you're going to share in a $500 prize pool. If you get a 4th winner, you're going to share in an additional $1,000 prize pool. And if you go 5 for 11 on the card, you're going to share in the entire 3,000 by sharing in another $1,500 prize pool. And of course, as you go up the ladder, there's going to be less and less people who have winners. So it's a really cool offer. It rewards the simplest wager in horse racing, which is something that I don't necessarily think we do often enough. The win wager, it's the wager that players connect on the most, and essentially giving players an opportunity to share an additional up to $3,000. So if you're going to play this great Claiming Crown card, be sure to be opted into that. And one of the newer wagers at Churchill Downs is that $3 late pick three. On Sundays, we give you a nice hit it and split it, $3,000, and that's a pretty cool number for just a pick three to be able to hit and split. And I believe last week it was $750 for each player. Only 4 players shared in it. So you hit a pick three, it paid $1,000, and just by being opted into the promo, you picked up an extra 75% bonus on top of it. So that's a pretty cool offer as well. And if you're a pick three player, definitely one to be involved in. On the tournament front, 2 big ones this weekend. We alluded to it on Saturday. Very happy to be partnered with the NHC, the NTRA on Saturday for a $500 NHC qualifier. 2 seats are going plus cash prizes. So it's a great opportunity. We talked about it on podcast this entire week, and we'll be talking about it on a In the Money Media podcast tomorrow as well. But I expect to see a lot of the big names in there. Really great opportunity to try to win your way to the NHC. And then on Sunday, we have a Kentucky Derby Betting Challenge qualifier on the card at Churchill Downs as well. $500. 1 seat are going to be awarded for every 20 entries to get into that big Derby contest. So a lot of cool stuff going on, great tournaments, good promotional opportunities as well, and all of it featured, of course, around the iconic Churchill Downs.
All right. Well, now we're going to move over to Aqueduct and talk about the Jockey Club Oaks, a grade 3. I just now looked at the morning line prices that came out, and I'm not happy with my pick, but that's okay. We'll get to that. I will start things off with Nick. Tell me who you picked in the Jockey Club Oaks.
Yeah, I guess I have to refresh because I was actually just looking to see if the morning line was out too, and I assume maybe it would come out an hour or so before the race because they drew this card 4 days ago and the morning line wasn't ready this morning. But
We're getting 8 to 5.
yeah, I figured, I feared it. I thought she'd be favored. I wondered how much David Aragona, who's an excellent morning line maker, would make her the favorite over Fionn. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I like Laura Lynn. I will admit that, probably save Lush Lips. Laura Lynn, I think, is the best 3-year-old turf filly out there. And I'd like to see her again against Lush Lips at, anywhere from 1.16 to 1.25 miles or so, because I do think Lush Lips got a really, really good trip sitting right off the pace. So did Laura Lynn. I mean, there was no real excuse. I do think that distance-wise, Laura Lynn's kind of been crying out for it. And the miles that she was going in early and running well, you start to dig into that pedigree a little bit. I mean, it is very distance oriented. So I think she's going to be really tough to beat here. I imagine Kendrick is going to put her right off the lead. It looks like there's a couple of horses that could be forward. Evershed could show some speed. Maybe National
Mm-hmm.
Archive goes out, figuring that's probably the only way she could be effective. And I think Laura Lynn's going to be very tough to handle here. And I'll admit, I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do as a 4-year-old because whether we have the likes, if she feels pretty back or not, Laura Lynn feels like the kind of horse that could blossom into a Distaff Turf Mile, potentially New York Diana type horse next year.
I'll go ahead and jump in since I'm on the same pick. And I mean, the price isn't too far away, but I was thinking that Fionn would be the favorite 2 to 1. So very, very close. Obviously, we're going to be competing for favoritism here, probably at post time between Laura Lynn and Fionn. And I do think with the trip, Laura Lynn being a little bit more forwardly placed is probably to the advantage. And you've got the horse for the course angle, 3 for 3 at Aqueduct. And really, aside from the last start, I mean, this is a horse that's unbeaten aside from that last start going 1.125 at Keeneland. So, yeah, I mean, this is a very good chance in here for Grand Motion, and Kendrick Carmouche is aboard 20% winner at Aqueduct. I just wish I was getting a little bit higher of a price. I guess if I'm going to throw out another horse that I think could be a price play, you get 8 to 1 on Scythian for Bill Mott. And this is a horse that last out was a length third, racing 1.16 miles, so maybe that added distance, third off the layoff as well. I'll throw that out there as a price play. Breaking from the rail has Sahin Savachi aboard. But yeah, I'm sticking with Laura Lynn, even though I was just hoping for maybe something around like 5 to 2.
Yeah, they were 7-5 and 2-1 in the QE2, and Fion, I didn't really, I mean, listen, I know she's a closer. I didn't really get the ride. I mean, they were going very slow up front, and her and Candy Quest were just seemed to be content to just kind of trail along at the back of the field, and they were the two horses that I keyed off of in the race, and it was fun knowing 3/8 of a mile into the race that I had absolutely no chance. But we'll see which one actually goes off favorite here. Fion, they're taking the blinkers off. Laurelin has been proven at a mile and 3/16. I picked the horse that finished second to her that day, and I guess, I mean, this is not very a creative pick, because if you're not taking the two favorites, Evershed is the next most likely horse to land on. But similar to Laurelin, Nick alluded to the fact about the distance and stamina up and down in her pedigree. I felt the same way about Evershed, and I thought the best race of her career was when she ran second at a mile and 3/16 behind Laurelin at 14-1 in the Saratoga Oaks. She kind of inherited the lead in the Old Dominion Oaks, a race that they over that soft turf at Colonial. I don't necessarily know if she wants to be on the lead like she was that day. And I thought she ran very well, because whenever you go to the front over soft ground like that for the first time, where she's been running over firmer good ground, it's tricky. And I can forgive the fact that she got a little bit tired late. I don't think that really is a knock against her, and I don't think that means that she can't get the mile and 3/8 here. Her horse just kind of crept up the inside on her to get her here in the final few jumps ahead of the wire. If she can sit in a good spot just off the speed, similar to what she did up at Saratoga, I think she's a threat. And as the third choice, I think she probably offers a bit of value compared to everybody else. So that's how I landed. It's not a supremely confident pick, because I think you guys, between Laurel and Fion, I think are on the most likely winners of the race. I'm just hoping Evershed maybe escapes at a little bit better price.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's funny. I was going to tell you, you knew at the 3/8 pole you were dead in that QE2, and that was after you held out hope for two furlongs too long, right? I mean, it was like, it was an unbelievable race the first half mile. You just knew they were crawling on the front end, and I mean, nobody moved at all. My problem with Fion, and I think the way I'd bet this race is to play Laurelin over Evershed. I don't like Fion's running style for a mile and 3/8 at all. She's a drop back, one run closer. Those blinkers are going to have to come off and somehow inject a bunch of early energy into her, because horses with that style are bad bets around 3 turns at a marathon type
Mhm.
trip. Because you can't lose contact and still have any chance, especially in a late autumn turf race over a course that's probably going to be at least somewhat wet. It's just because it's been cold out, it's been rainy. I don't see her quickening enough to get in there, so I would try and beat Fion altogether, and play Laurelin over Evershed.
All right, to close out, we'll talk about our fades of the week, our horses at a short price that we're not playing. Darin, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I guess this is a good one for the contest players, because it comes in the last race at Churchill Downs, and it is a brave fade, but it's risk manager for me. Coming off of that win at the $50,000 starter level, I didn't really love that field that day. The previous win against non-winners of Two Other Than Company was at Kentucky Downs, which a lot of the time I kind of put into a category by itself. And this is another horse that's just going to be a take back, drop back closer, make one run. Listen, Mike Maker has owned the Claiming Crown for a long time, and I completely recognize that. He's been the leading trainer in Claiming Crown races for a long time. I just thought this race is really tough, as all the Crown races are. There's horses that are coming out of non-winners of Two Other Than allowances. There's horses that are coming out of good efforts in stakes competition, whether that be turf or synthetic. And there's horses that are going to be closer to the pace that I think are in very good form right now. I just think you could do better in this field than settling for a horse that's probably going to be somewhere around 9-5, 2-1 at age 7. I know the horse is riding a 3-race win streak, and I know it's Mike Maker with Gaff Leone in a spot like this, but again, I just think this is too competitive of a field to land on the favorite.
No arguments there. You're managing your risk there with your fade. So
There you go. Well done.
Ooh, pun intended. Good stuff.
yeah,
Great set of
it was not
silks.
my best work, but thanks, guys.
No, it was solid. Great set of silks on risk manager. Very announcer friendly with the lime green and the black.
All right, Nick, you're up. Why are you not playing Freedom Road?
I'll admit, I was actually I went back and looked at what Darin had chosen, because I thought Risk Manager was a reasonable fade as well, and I ended up on Freedom Road in race number 6, which is the Iron Horse Claiming Crown event. at a mile and a 16th on the dirt. And I just don't want a horse at less than 4 or 5 to 1 in here. This horse has been in good form. He's been running at Gulfstream. Last out at Parks was a good second against, I would say probably slightly lesser, not much lesser, but another situation where the horse is going to be overbet because of IRAD. And we saw a little bit now on Thursday after he had 5 wins on Wednesday that his horses are just, you're paying a huge tax on any of his mounts. And I want to avoid them when you can, especially when the price is going to be a little bit depressed. Now, full disclosure, Richard Silliman has done an excellent job with this horse of late. And since he came back off a little break early in 2025, he's been a much better horse. But there are too many interesting horses in here. He's been beaten at short prices in the past. He's delivered plenty of times at short prices in the past as well. But I'll take a swing against him at 7-2 in one of the many super competitive races with big fields on Saturday for the Claiming Crown.
You all were smart to pick Claiming Crown races because there's an average of 12 and a half runners in the body of the field for all these Claiming Crown races. Now, I decided not to go with the Claiming Crown race. Maybe I would have been smart to go with one of these oversized fields, but I went with one with 10 runners, and I am going to be playing against Miss Ellery, who is going to be breaking from post 10 in race 2 at a mile and a 16th. This is an allowance for fillies and mares, and Miss Ellery, she is going to be making her second start for a new trainer here. Last out was racing at a mile and a 16th, and then kind of trailed off, ended up finishing 5 lengths behind the winner in second. And if you look at her last 4 starts, it seems like in that stretch run, she's losing ground. So going this mile and a 16th distance probably is not in her ideal distance, at least. She's 1 for 6 at a mile and a 16th. She does have Tyler Gaffalione aboard, so that's always going to help you at Churchill Downs. But he was aboard the last 2 starts, and this horse was pretty far back in second both of those starts previously. I see a lot of other runners in here with better prices that have some similar speed figures and have other angles that look like they have more upside here. So I'm going to play against this horse breaking from the outside, who I also think probably wants to be on the early lead. So I'm not going to play her at 3-1. It's a lukewarm favorite, but that is my play against on Saturday.
I think the key with her is I don't think she's getting the lead. I don't think she's quicker than Bolt on the Rocks, right to her inside. So I think the key with her is if she sits second off of Bolt on the Rocks, does that make her better or not? And I don't know the answer because I mean the race, 3 starts back at Delaware, she made an early aggressive move and then faltered again anyway. So you're 100% right. I don't like playing horses that are 2 for 21 that are consistently losing ground on the stretch. She's drawn outside the other speed. It just comes down to, if Bolt on the Rocks makes the front, which she should, and she sits second, does that help her? But I don't know the answer. I'm not smart enough, but I certainly understand the fade.
Yeah, a lot of these horses, it looks like they do come from farther back, so that could be a little risky, but the one looks like it might try to at least be pretty close to the early lead. And if you look at the trainer angles here, there's a couple in here that I just think have a better chance and much better price, around 6-1, 5-1.
I thought the 2 recent maiden winners were definitely better options than Miss Ellery. I mean, Scooch Over finished second to Angela Bella 2 back and came out of that race to win a good maiden special weight at Keeneland. Both of them are going to come from a little bit off the pace, which I think is to their advantage. So I definitely prefer the 2 recent maiden winners to the favorite here.
Yep.
I agree, and I think underneath you could do worse than Fire Plaisir, who is kind of a fill-in. I butchered that, the French part of it, but she's a horse that's going to be making one run, and if there's any pace in front of her, she's run well into the teeth of slow paces in the past as well. So, no, I agree. Too many interesting horses to be taking 3-1 on a poorly drawn horse like Miss Ellery.
You said it better than I could have. I'm not even going to try that. So.
We'll leave it. We'll leave it to Travis. I tell you, I do not envy Travis on Saturday. I mean, calling the Derby is its own animal, and that's different. But the Derby, there's a lot of silks that you're very familiar with from prominent owners. When you get horses coming in from all over the country, and you're seeing silks that you've never seen before, and you have to do that over and over and over for 13, 14 horse fields, and as soon as you remember them, you got to forget them. I do not envy Travis on Saturday. It is. I wouldn't be surprised if he says this might be the most difficult day of calling for him all year.
I texted him this morning and said, "You better eat your Wheaties Saturday morning. This Claiming Crown is nuts." Yeah, it's that's a you make a great point too about the silks too, right? Because I mean, you're calling these grade one, grade two races. We know all those horses. We know what silks they wear more often than not. But yeah, this is really difficult, and it's one after another.
Yeah.
As tough to call as it is to handicap. So good luck to everyone out
It's
there.
tough. I'll tell you what, it's tougher to call. I'll be
Yeah,
honest with you. It is tougher to call because if you make a mistake handicapping, unless you put yourself out there, nobody knows. If you make a
Yeah,
mistake calling the race, you're going to hear
that's
about
true.
nobody
it.
doesn't know. That's
Well,
the
if
thing.
anyone can do it, Travis certainly is gonna get it right. I feel like he's always studying those pronunciations and nice enough to send them to me on occasion when I'm gonna have to say it myself. So,
He's the gold
yeah.
standard.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for joining us, Nick, ahead of this very challenging claiming crown and some aqueduct racing. I'm sure we'll see you again very soon, and we'll be back next Thursday with more best bets and our fates of the week.